Now, we are still talking health. My guest for the next few moments, Dr. Hilda Mantebia Boy, President-elect Pediatric Society of Ghana. In fact, she's the outgoing vice president, so she's not new in this space at all. And in fact, a couple of weeks before this became topical, the society had held their annual general and scientific meeting where they issued a communique about the need to do more for the health of our children. Indeed, they called it environmental health and children's well-being, a shared responsibility. So as if they knew. They issued this communique 3 weeks ago, a month ago, I believe it was,
Yes.
only for us to now wake up to the situation of lack of vaccines, which is now leading to a measles outbreak in parts of the country. So the pediatricians are very, very concerned. Doc, welcome to the show. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Wonderful. So before we come to what you said last month, I think we've been sort of calling you over this issue where we are told there's been a shortage of vaccines. I'm sure you would know how long this has been because you work directly in the space. Is this a recent phenomenon or have we had this shortage for a while now?
It's quite recent, relatively, but some parts of the north started reporting the shortage, I think about November or so last year. And it has now become widespread. So it means that it's not just one region that is affected, but a lot of other regions have become involved. And people are just not getting the vaccines when they go to immunize their children.
So we're talking BCG, which is the
Yes.
one for tuberculosis.
Yes.
We're also told, which other ones do you know?
The polio,
Polio.
the pneumococcal vaccine,
Okay.
and then the measles vaccine.
Is that the measles rubella?
Yes, the measles rubella vaccine.
And these are parts of the 6 childhood killer diseases.
Yes, they are.
Amazing. Now, I know that vaccination has been one of possibly Ghana's most successful public health campaigns.
Yes.
So prior to the shortage, was there a concern about vaccine coverage at all? I.e., are there any pockets of the country where mothers don't send their children? Or based on the way Ghanaians know vaccination, how were people, what was the uptake of vaccines prior to the shortage?
Generally very good. The reason is the vaccines were available and the health professionals were reaching the people in their homes, even in
Okay.
communities where, let's say, there was a river people needed to cross. Our public health nurses were crossing these rivers, they were climbing these mountains to get the vaccines to the children, and the acceptability has been quite good. So we haven't had much of an issue over there. It's just because of these shortages and the fact that people are actually still actively seeking to get the vaccines for their children, but they're just not there.
From the science perspective, is vaccination something that has to happen before a particular age? And if it does not, what are the consequences? I know there are different diseases. So
Yes.
is it like you have to vaccinate before age 2 or something? Otherwise, or you once you get how does it work?
Well, we have a schedule, and that schedule looks at the illnesses, the various vaccines that are available, and the response of the body. So it's based on that we have the schedule. So for many, well, I could go
Yes, go
through
through
them
it to
quickly.
help us,
All
yeah.
right. So at birth, we have the BCG, and the BCG is what we give to protect against tuberculosis. So when you give the BCG, it doesn't mean you can never get tuberculosis, but what it means is that your chances of getting very bad forms of tuberculosis, the one that will affect the brain, the bone, all those, very, very low compared to someone who is not vaccinated. And then we have the polio vaccine. Then we have hepatitis B. The one at birth, hepatitis B, is not available, so that is not being given. That's also an issue, though. And at 6 weeks, we have another oral polio vaccine virus. And then we have the DPT, hepatitis B, and then the Haemophilus influenza B. Then we have pneumococcal vaccine 1, and then the rotavirus vaccine 1.
Okay.
At 10 weeks, we have the oral polio vaccine virus 2, 2. And then we have the DPT, the hepatitis B, Haemophilus influenza B2, the second one. Then pneumococcal 2, then rotavirus is repeated again at the 10 weeks. Then at 14 weeks, you have the oral polio vaccine 3, then the DPT, Haemophilus influenza B, the third one, hepatitis B again. Then the pneumococcal comes in, then the IPV comes in.
So it's like a schedule,
It's a schedule.
based on. So you give one, you wait a few months, give
Yes,
another one.
yes.
So it means if you miss 1 or 2, it throws the whole thing out of gear.
Yeah, it does. It does. But as much as possible, depending on which vaccine is missing,
Yeah.
we try to catch up when the vaccines are available or when the person shows up. Depends on the age and all that.
Do we know if failing to vaccinate a child in any of the six, which is the most dangerous? For example, if a child doesn't get a polio vaccine for their first 3 years, what are the possible consequences? Or measles, what are possible consequences?
Those are what we are currently seeing. That's the measles. You see that people have started getting the infections, and these infections have not been recorded in this country for a very, very long time, for years. Let's say 30 years or so, we have not been seeing measles. So to suddenly have a resurgence of the infection means that, well, even if anybody ever doubted that the vaccines were working in the past, now they have evidence. The vaccines are not available, and children have started getting the vaccine, the infections. And with something like measles, for example, anybody can be infected. The very young, the very old, pregnant women, diabetics, all those can be infected. So it's something that affects everybody, you and I. Even for people who have been vaccinated in the past, you still can catch the infection. Once for some reason your immunity is down, you are at risk again.
Let me read two stories to corroborate this. So, on citinewsroom.com, February 7, measles outbreak, over 70 children in Northern Region infected. The Northern Region has recorded over 70 positive cases of measles among children since October last year, with the situation worsening. The region currently has run out of measles vaccines. So far, the cases have been detected in 4 districts, including Karaga, Sagnarigu, Tamale, and Gushehu, where it was first detected. According to Citi news sources, even though there has not been any death as a result of the outbreak, there have been severe cases where children had to be put on oxygen in some health facilities. This is February 7. Jump to February 25. Vaccine shortage. 120 cases of measles recorded in Northern Region. So the number is growing bigger. Now, this one is attributed to you. The Pediatric Society of Ghana has disclosed that 120 cases of measles were recorded in the Northern Region by end December 2022 due to shortage of essential vaccines. Speaking on the big issue on Saturday, a member of the society, Dr. Jewa Bonuedi,
Yes.
urged the government to ensure the country never runs out of vaccines for children. And then she says 120 cases of measles were recorded in Northern Region. So that tells you the situation is severe. So, Doc, I'm sure if you after your next round of checks, this figure may be higher.
Yes, and as we speak, we're looking at about 500
Wow.
suspected cases of measles. And you know how Ghana is. There are those who will go to the fetish priest, those who will go to the herbalist, and even those who may not show up in hospital because they don't have the money to show up in hospital. So we are worried because we're just sitting and watching, and it's getting worse by the day. And that is expected also because it's an infectious disease. We really, really shouldn't have come to this point in the very first place because we know how bad or terrible these illnesses are, and we know that there's a solution. So everybody had to just sit up and ensure that we don't get to this point.
But can measles kill?
Yes, it can. It can. It can cause pneumonias. It can cause infection around the brain, so your lung can be affected.
Wow.
You can die. Encephalitis or infection around the brain, you can die or develop disability as a result of that. So all these illnesses are illnesses that can kill.
I see. So we are told the measles is in the north.
Yes.
The BCG shortage, do we know which particular area? Is this nationwide?
So no, so the northern region, some parts of Greater Accra, the Bono areas, those are the main areas that we are hearing about the shortages from.
For that particular one.
Yes.
What about polio? Do we know if there's shortage of polio vaccine?
I think it's similar.
Yes. Wow.
Yes.
Have you seen any of such a thing in your practice? You've been practicing for a few years. You are the incoming president. Has there been a period where we've had this type of shortage of vaccines in the country?
No, I haven't seen. I haven't. I mean, occasionally we have a platform as Pediatric Society of Ghana, and maybe once you may see that, oh, do we have this vaccine? We are not getting it. But those are just like one-offs, and often there are other facilities close by that have the vaccine, so it's not really an issue. But this is something that is like severe because the shortage is widespread. So at some point, people will say, oh, mommy, go and check this place or go to this. But now they are going everywhere and they are not getting the vaccines.
Do we know the number of children under 2? This is children under 2, right? That we have in the country, and what this shortage, if it persists, could mean for that generation. So let's assume, and I'm not a doomsday prophet, but let's assume this doesn't get resolved by, say, Easter. So that from November, December, all the way to March ending, children are not vaccinated. What potentially does this mean for the population?
Essentially, what it means is that they don't have protection. It means that all these illnesses for which they are not getting the vaccines for, they are very susceptible and can get those infections. Again, it also means that anybody that is connected to them, once your immunity has a problem or your immune system is not functioning well, you are also at risk. So all the grandmas, grandpas who are helping to care for these young ones at home, also very vulnerable, are at risk. People undergoing cancer treatment. So really, it's everybody. And we're looking at thousands or even millions of children and potentially everybody. We have a lot of old people. We have a lot of people with illnesses that they are not even aware of. So this is something that can potentially affect the whole country. And we cannot sit and look on as if there's nothing happening. And we can't also sit down and think that, oh, it will be over soon, so there's nothing. I mean, we as healthcare professionals are preparing ourselves for, if I may call this disaster, because the measles outbreak now is a terrible situation and it's a disaster, if I may just put it that way. And we know that it's likely to spread and spread until we have the immunization coverage picking up again, having maybe about 90% or so of the population having the vaccines that they need to have. Because it's only at that point that that herd immunity, that protection, that general protection that the masses or the majority of people have will protect people from spreading and from having the infection.
The society should communicate, I think, a week and a half ago. Have you had any response? Have you had any assurance from the Ghana Health Service that this is being dealt with? Of course, communicate is issued to the public.
Yes.
So you are not writing to the minister or anything, but
Yes.
I'm sure the number of pediatricians in the country would know. Have you seen any movement in that space to suggest that this will be resolved soon?
Well, so we have heard on the news at certain points that in 2 weeks it will come. And I think we're in the second week now. So
Yes.
we're all hoping that before the end of this week it comes. But whatever the case is, it's very worrying because we need the vaccines. We need them like today. We need them like even yesterday. So we need the vaccines. And we are hoping that there are no further delays in getting the vaccines in, because where we find ourselves now is really embarrassing for all of us as a society, as a country. It says that we have gone back. It says that people have not done what they should have done. And it says that our system has failed all of us.
Is a vaccine something I can go over the counter and buy? So can parents who are well-to-do go to a pharmacy and say, give me BCG, 3 strips for my child? Is it possible?
No, it doesn't work that way. Vaccines are not like paracetamol or any of those over-the-counter medications that you can go and buy. Even if you have the money, the agencies are not just going to sell to you if you go out there that you are going to buy them. So, and they are not produced here either. So it's not something that we can improvise for. Someone said recently that as for healthcare professionals in an underdeprived community, we are constantly improvising. We are improvising CPAP, we are improvising this, so if there was something that we could do at our level, aside advocacy, we would have done long ago, because we are doing a lot of that already. But for this one, it's really under the purview of the Ministry of Health, the agencies, the government, to ensure that we have these vaccines available. And that is why they are the ones who need to give us the answers.
It's a minute past 9. My guest is Dr. Hilda Boy. She's the president-elect of Pediatric Society of Ghana, outgoing vice president. Doc, the Pediatric Society issued I don't know what to call it, a bulletin, but this was after your annual general and scientific meeting in February in Kumasi. And it seems to me your communique and the kind of things we're doing was more concerned about environmental health and children's well-being, talking about the weather, talking about the pollution.
Yes.
So I'm not even sure your meeting anticipated this level of vaccine shortage. What is environmental health, and why was the society concerned about that at your recent AGM?
All right. Generally now, pollution is a big issue across the world.
Okay.
We see a lot of dust. We see a lot of smoke. We see a lot of water pollution, even noise pollution, very loud noises in churches, in our neighborhoods, because there's a funeral or a party here. So we sought to bring it to the fore so that parents are empowered, the stakeholders, the government, and all these regulatory authorities that are supposed to ensure that our environment is clean and our environment is safe for our children, do their jobs, and we will not sit and wait for look at the issue of galamsey. We've spoken about galamsey for months, for years. Where are we now? Children are still constantly falling in these polluted water bodies and drowning in them. And you see, not all these stories will even come out, but one death of a child is a death too many if this is a preventable death. The children have many, many problems already. And for those that we can preempt and prevent, we want to be able to do that and encourage those who are supposed to do their jobs to do it, to protect the children.
So the focus was on general environmental health.
General environmental health.
Any specific diseases you were looking at as far as children were concerned within that environmental health issue? Because I remember, I think 2 weeks ago, the EP asked that people should wear masks.
Yes.
And that type of thing.
Yes.
Is it, what kind of conditions specifically were we looking at?
So, well, for that, the asthma, pneumonia, and all those fall under, especially if you're looking at respiratory illnesses. But we also looked at the issue of birth asphyxia. And when you say birth asphyxia, in a simple way, you're looking at babies who are born who did not cry at birth. I'm just making it very simple. And in this condition, when the babies do not get oxygen, enough oxygen going to the brain, it can cause them to have brain damage. And now we have a lot of children who have cerebral palsy, who develop this cerebral palsy and other disabilities, hearing impairment, they cannot hear. And they developed all this as a result of not having air at birth. And we appreciate that there are gaps in infrastructure. We appreciate that there are gaps in skill, because depending on where you deliver, if you do not get the attention that you need, or you do not have the equipment that is needed as a healthcare professional to resuscitate the child or the baby, then you may have the baby developing disability in later life. And all these have a cost that the parents bear, a cost that the nation bears as a result of these disabilities and the burden on our healthcare system. So really, we wanted to highlight it. We have done a number of trainings for our healthcare professionals to learn how to help babies breathe, essential, but also to bring it to the fore at our AGSM. And it's something that we're going to talk about again sometime this year.
I want to remind listeners of the last time we spoke to the health authorities on this, where we spoke to Dr. Patikuma Buaji. Was it? This is what date was this? We'll try and remember shortly. In the meanwhile, we're talking to Dr. Hilda Boy, President-elect Pediatric Society. How many pediatricians do we have in Ghana, by the way? Do we know?
We're in the hundreds.
Oh, you are not up to 1,000?
No, we'll not be up to 1,000.
You're in the hundreds, okay.
Yes, we're in the hundreds.
And the other question was about the the posting. I'll come to that later. Let me. So this interview was I don't know the date, 23rd February, right? So that's 2 weeks ago, 23rd February. I spoke to Dr. Patikuma Buaji about the shortage of vaccines. Here's an excerpt of that interview.
We found out around January that they were shorting. So we did redistribution where regions where they have excess distributor, whilst we're waiting to address the supply chain challenge. So I would say about 6 weeks. But of course, as the day goes by, the shortages get acute as when we prepare to get the vaccines to be brought in.
Some mothers contacted us and claimed that as far back as June 2022, they had been turned away for one of the three you mentioned. So, but you're saying that the situation began in January.
There is always maldistribution in specific facilities. Okay, so that cannot be attributed to, because they may have a cold chain problem. They may have had a supply. They may not probably pick their supplies, etc. And so, in all the over 9,000 centers that we run, we are going to have some places, one or two places, where there may be some shortage, not because there's a global shortage, but because of some logistical aberrations that have made them not to have the vaccine at the time that the person needed.
Okay. But in terms of this specific one you're referring to, it is because of exchange rate induced financial shortage.
So you have funds that you're going to buy, it's in cities. Or because of the exchange rate, of course, it does not meet up the amount of dollars you need to pay for that. And so it caused a delay. But orders are being made, and we expect that within the week or two, it will be flown in, and then we will quickly
All right.
redistributed.
That was interesting because I thought that the expanded immunization program, a lot of the funding came from one of two sources: donor
Gavi.
support and also the global fund. And I'm supposing that these monies are paid in foreign currency.
There are two sources. We have the Gavi one, which Ghana pays a co-fund, which is co-share with Gavi. That is available. There's also the traditional one, which Ghana pays 100%. And that is where of the 5, that's where we have 3 that is short that we are bringing them in.
So for the Gavi one, half of it is paid by external sources, and then we match the funding. But then for
we match the funding, yeah.
But the other one is 100% government of Ghana money.
Yes, yes.
Do we know the level of financial outlay or how much the financial gap is for that particular one, the second one you referred to?
The gap. Normally, plus everything, it should be about $3 to $4 million. But you can decide to buy them in the various quarters, and so that's what.
But this $3 to $4 million will be per annum.
Not necessarily. About half a year or so.
Oh wow!
We've made the necessary arrangement to get stocks in, and quickly as we put in efforts to make sure that we catch up on all those things. So that is the situation.
Which suggests that we didn't have stock ahead of time, so that when the exchange rate challenges came and we didn't have the money, then there was a shortage. Because if we had stock,
there's always a time within which these orders are made. Vaccines have cold chain issues. They also have expiry. So there's a timeline within which, based on your stocks, you order. So don't just buy and keep.
All right.
There's a time within which you need to get them.
All right. Now, the other question which I believe the public wants to know is, so now that we have had this shortage, we've done a big campaign nationwide about vaccination. It's possibly the most successful public education campaign in Africa. The fact that every mother, whether they give birth in hospital or not, will take their child for vaccination. So it's a big thing. How long can mothers stay without vaccinating their infants?
I've first said that within the next 2 weeks, we should expect some supplies. And we'll do a massive catch-up campaign to ensure that those who missed it are vaccinated. Normally, we are able to do a lot of vaccination in a very short time, as you are aware. So once the supply comes in, we'll quickly do a catch-up. Where there are areas where we need to do some mass vaccination, that will also be done to ensure that we don't forestall any possible outbreaks, etc. But you see, vaccination has a minimum interval. It doesn't have a maximum time that you can give it. But ideally, it has to be given within a certain range. So even though if you are supposed to do it in 6 weeks and you miss 4 weeks, it's still appropriate that the next dose can be given to.
So, and again, don't take this question wrongly. Had the graphic not done this story, when were you hoping to announce to parents that there was a shortage and that you would do a catch-up program? Because this really is a media campaign that has brought this out.
I think you are in Accra. The service is everywhere. The communities, the district directors, they have engaged their people and they've informed them about this is where we are. As soon as we can, we'll do a catch-up campaign by vaccination for you. So it is not something that has to be done always at a central level. And we didn't have shortages in all districts, and we still don't have shortage in all districts. But
Doc, honestly,
they are dealing with them.
Doc, the story. Let me give you where they did Takrady, Cape Coast, Sunyani, Kumasi, Koforidua. They did Wa. They did Bolga. It's a national story. So if you're saying that I'm in Accra and therefore I may not know, all the people who were spoken to in this story were just saying that they didn't have the medicine, they didn't know where it was going to come. So my question is that I'm framing the question. I'm saying that had it not been for the report, we would not know that there was even a plan to do a catch-up. So if Ghana Health Service had come out to say, look, we have a shortage induced by forex. In 2-3 weeks, we're going to get vaccines, and we are going to ask all mothers who have not vaccinated to come back. This story would not even have been necessary. This story has come out because media people have gone out to check because of people's complaints. So it's almost like we are chasing the story. So if I'm asking you, how are you going to catch up? And you say, well, it's people already know. I beg you. I don't think people know.
Bernard,
I don't think people know.
Ghana Health Service has always been upfront with information before the media ask questions. This, as you looking for your supplies and make sure that we have some information and definite dates for people, that is what it is. And we have not hidden it. The community, the district have been engaging their community and telling them about the shortage and doing some redistribution from districts where they have access to, so that until where we have some of these shortages. So
well, if the parents knew, they wouldn't be thronging the hospitals and keep asking. I mean, when our reporter went to the...
you know how?
No, I don't know. I don't know because we are right now, Doc. We have one of the most.
It's not at all vaccines. We are doing about 11 of them.
Yeah, but the three basic vaccines. In fact, people who have contacted me here include doctors who are saying that they have not been able to vaccinate their children because they don't know when the vaccine will come. And these are doctors working in the public health service telling me. So if you're telling me that there's already a plan to catch up, and even doctors who have kids have not...
What I'm saying is that once the vaccines come in, those who need vaccination will quickly be vaccinated. And the community announcement we made and all those people will be brought in to get vaccinated. So, yes, we are acknowledging that there's been a shortage. We are anticipating that we'll get it much earlier than it is.
Could this not lead to a reversal in the gains in the public success of national immunization programs?
Yes, we are very concerned. That's why we are working very hard around the clock with the ministry and the minister to make sure that we have the stocks, not just for the reversal, but to ensure that we don't have any outbreak of disease. And so we're working on it to ensure that we have them done. Hopefully, the issue about vaccine is that even when you have missed a certain point, you can always take them. And that's why I'm talking about the catch-up. And then we also make sure that we put in systems to make sure this unfortunate incident doesn't happen. You've not seen this for years. I don't remember the last time you heard about shortage of vaccines in the country. So that tells you that this is not a very usual practice, expectation.
No,
so
seriously, it's true.
And thank you for also bringing it up. And I'm sure this education also helps go around for people to know that this is a challenge that in the next 2-3 weeks, we should get vaccines.
So I want to get a final comment from you. Final comment in terms of assurance. You said in the next 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
I want you to be a bit more specific. Whether in those next 2-3 weeks, the backlog. You see, there's been a shortage that we believe has been on since June. You are saying it's from January, no problem. What quantity are we going to get in the next 2-3 weeks? And will that quantity be enough to deal with the number of babies who need to be vaccinated within the 2-3 weeks that you refer to?
Yes, it will bring in enough to do catch up. To be enough to take things forward and make sure that such are also entertained. So I just want to assure Ghanaians that we are bringing in the vaccine. Of course, it's coming and availability. That's why I've given a range of between 2 to 3 weeks. It will be available to vaccinate all children. And I also want to add that it is not every vaccine that is in short supply. There are others are available. The DPTs, the MRs, and the DTs, they are all available. So those who need can still go, get what they need. The meningitis, they are all available. What is missing is the one at birth, which is BCG, and that. And so we assure them that as soon as it comes, we also make the necessary step too.
All right, so that was Dr. Patrickuma Boaji. That interview was live on the 23rd of February, so that's 12 days ago. So on Thursday will be the 2 weeks. So the 3 weeks starts from Thursday. We're still waiting. And Doc, I don't know, do you know if the situation has improved in the facilities that you are in?
No.
So still the same thing?
No, yes, okay. It's still the
same. So we are now entering the 3 of the 2-3. The 2 to 3 weeks, we are waiting. And he says the vaccines will be available. Now we know at least 3 of the vaccines, the BCG, the tuberculosis.
The BCG is the BCG, yes.
Then the polio.
Yes, the rotavirus. The polio was mentioned in some cases. Then the rotavirus, the pneumococcal, and then the measles vaccine.
So it's about 3 or 4 actually.
Yes.
That are not here.
Yes.
All right. Just a final question to you. I don't know whether this is fair to ask, but we just spoke to a district health director who says he's the only doctor in the whole of Wa East. You've been being a doctor for a while.
Yes.
This doesn't surprise you, does it?
It doesn't surprise me, but at the same time, when I look at the issues around distribution of doctors, government has a role to play, but people cite different reasons for not wanting to move out into the district. I mean, I'm in Accra now, so it's difficult to say. If you ask me why didn't I move out there, I never really sought to not move out there. I just happened to remain here, did my specialization here and all. But when I move into the district, so I've traveled around the country quite a bit, and I see the conditions under which people live and people work. A major concern is often the school that their children will attend, the amenities for their families and all that. And Ghana has been a country called Ghana for 66 years. Again, I think this also falls under leadership, and leadership is cause and the rest effect. You can talk, you can give reasons, you can give explanations, excuses, but if you want to get the job done as a leader, you get it done. There will be a few troubles or a few bottlenecks here and there, but you get the job done. This issue has been an issue for many years. And if you do not provide the solution, which is what, I mean, a good school shouldn't just be there because you want to attract a doctor there. The people who are living in those communities also deserve to attend good schools. So how difficult is it for us as a country to decide that every region needs maybe good amenities? Fundamentally, and these are things that can be done. We can find ways to attract these doctors there. Some have complained about the lack of sort of opportunities to do other jobs like locums, and also these are real issues, but incentivizing them so that they will stay. Some have said, okay, if you add this to my salary or do this or do that. But some of the other things that are not just monetary, like the amenities and all, are things that the government can actually sit and have a plan for. If we have a plan for this country and we work at it, there's no way that we will be sitting here and talking about the same things every day. Look, Bernard, when I went to the US the very first time and I came back, I was sad. I was sad because I saw all the missed opportunities that we have as a country. We as Ghanaians, as people in Ghana, very brilliant people. There's nothing that we cannot do. And even in management now, we have people who have attended Yale, Harvard, everywhere. The big yes. So you cannot tell me that these people don't have exposure. They don't know what should be done. But why are the right things not being done to put us up there? Because if we look at this country 50 years from now and what we are doing currently, we will still be talking, Bernard, you talk and talk and talk, the same issues for the next 10 years, 15 years, and you get hypertension if you are not careful.
You say the pediatricians are not up to 1,000.
No, they are not. We are not.
There's demand
Yes.
on you guys to also travel and leave the country. Do you know if some of your members are leaving? Are they taking up the offer?
Oh, people are honestly leaving, and they are leaving the country because of the hardships, because the depreciation of the cedi. The salary is now, the figure remains in Ghana cedis, but then the value of it. So you look at yourself and you say, the work that I'm doing, I mean, if I'm out there, what is the potential? How much am I likely to be earning? And we're all working really hard. So if you look at the opportunities and the potential, then you ask yourself why you're staying. But many of us will continue to stay, except that the people who call the shots, those who decide the value of the currency that we are all earning as Ghanaians, should do their job and ensure that we get value for our money, and we also get our due when it comes to we should not sit down and just watch our money turn into coins over the period when we are continuing to give off our best and work hard. And if we are not careful, we'll get to a point where many people who are able to leave will just leave. And then what remains? And many of our politicians who are calling the shots are sending their children abroad. These schools, these amenities that we are complaining about, they are not using these facilities. No, many of them are not. Even if their children are in Ghana, they are using the big, the big schools, the international ones and all. And the free Bernard, if you leave me, I'll talk. The free SHS
I
and
want
all
you to
that,
talk because I can feel the frustration.
It's terrible.
So
Bernard.
even from a perspective of a pediatrician who is part of an organization of pediatricians, clearly you feel frustrated that the system is not working. All right, Godfrey, let's read a few quick comments